everyone, and welcome back to Next Gen Gaming SC for continued coverage of SCG CON Atlanta. We are getting ready for Game 2 between Mike, a.k.a. Bobby Sapphire, and Gray. We have Jango Tarkentown versus Anakin Blue. You can watch Game 1 of this match over at KTOD's YouTube channel. Be sure to check out their YouTube channel if you have not already. YouTube.com/SWU_KTOD. They also have a Patreon. Check them out at patreon.com/KTOD. They provide wonderful content for the community, and they have some amazing benefits and features with their Patreon. So be sure to check them out, as these KTOD guys are pillars of this Star Wars Unlimited community. Now here in Game 2, Gray with the initiative. He plays Kuil, and Mike is not going to make a turn 1 play here. He just claims the initiative. And I believe he had Greedo in hand, and he opts not to play Greedo. Wanted to go ahead and get the initiative instead. So now with the initiative, Mike is going to pay 3 for the Elite P-38 Starfighter. That deals 1 damage to Kuil, and Kuil gets exhausted with Jango's ability. Gray does play Yoda in the ground arena. And now the action back over to Mike. He is going to use the epic action on Tarkentown early here in Game 2 as he defeats Kuil with Tarkentown. Now that does give Gray the initiative here for round 3. He'll take the first action. And with Gray's first action, he was contemplating attacking with Yoda, but Gray would love to get some more value out of Yoda with Restore 2. Right now, Gray does not have any damage on his base. So Gray putting another Force unit in the ground arena, Kanan Jarrus. And Mike is going to play Lurking TIE Phantom. We saw Lurking TIE Phantom get in for 8 damage in the first game. We'll see what TIE Phantom can do here in Game 2. Gray does decide to go ahead and attack with Yoda. 2 damage to Mike's base. Mike getting in for 3 damage to Gray's base with the P-38 Starfighter. Gray has claimed the initiative. And then Mike deciding to play Greedo here in round 3. So Mike going a bit wide on the board. 3 units on Mike's side of the table, 2 for Gray, but Gray's units both giving him the ability to heal damage from his base. And once again, here in round 4, Gray does have the initiative, and he is going to start with an attack into Greedo using Yoda. So Greedo defeated. He restores 2 from his base, and this time Mike misses on the when defeated trigger. He had a huge hit with Greedo's when defeated trigger in Game 1 that allowed Mike to defeat Anakin. But he does not hit this time. Yoda stays on the board. Mike does get in for 4 damage with the Lurking TIE Phantom. And now the action back over to Gray. He is going to attack with Kanan Jarrus. 4 damage to Mike's base. The on-attack trigger, discarding 7th Fleet Defender from Mike's base. That is going to allow Gray to heal 2 more damage from his base. And now Mike will get in for 3 with the P-38 Starfighter. So we have 6 damage on each base. But Gray is ahead in the race here because Mike has the 25 HP rare base. Gray has the 30 HP base. So an additional 5 HP for Gray. Now, Gray has actually just claimed the initiative here, not using any of those 5 resources. And Mike is taking that opportunity to extend the board quite a bit. He plays a second copy of Lurking TIE Phantom. Deploys Jango Fett. Jango Fett gets into Gray's base for another 3 damage. So we'll see if Gray, not having a play on turn 4, comes back to really hurt here in this game. Now he's got the initiative, and he is going to fire out Rival's Fall right away. defeating Jango Fett. So Mike will not be exhausting any of Gray's units here in this round. That's a big deal. Now Mike does get it for 4 damage with the first Lurking TIE Phantom. Yoda then gets into Mike's base for 2, restoring 2 from Gray's base. Mike getting in for another 4 damage with Lurking TIE Phantom. 15 damage on Gray's base, but now Gray will attack for 4. And the on-attack trigger with Kanan Jarrus, Mike will discard the top card of his deck, and Gray will heal another 2 damage from his base, back down to 13. So Gray is healing quite a bit of damage with these Force units. Mike does get in for another 3 damage with the P-38 Starfighter. So 16 damage on Gray's base, 12 damage on Mike's base. Gray is now going to deploy Anakin, and Anakin right now has +3 power with 16 damage on Gray's base. So Anakin swinging for 7. And again, with Jango being defeated during this round, he is exhausted right now. So Mike cannot exhaust Anakin unless he had a no good to me dead. He does not. Mike plays Ruthless Raider. 2 damage to Gray's base, bringing the total up to 18, and 2 damage to Yoda. So Yoda defeated. And now the action back over to Gray. He has Anakin ready in the ground arena. And 2 attacks from Anakin would give Gray the win here in game 2. So Gray thinking this one through, and here comes the big attack. 7 damage to Mike's base with Anakin. 19 damage on. Mike will claim the initiative, and he has to have a way to exhaust Anakin with his first action of this next round. What a fantastic game 2. Gray trying to force a deciding game 3 here at the Saturday 2K in Atlanta. Here's Mike's play. He has it. Ruthless Raider, 2 damage to Gray's base, 2 damage to Anakin. Jango exhausts Anakin, and now Mike has enough damage in the space arena to deal fatal. Gray is 2 damage short right now with what he is showing on the board. Kanan deals 4. He needs to deal 6 damage to Mike's base. And Gray has the Jedi lightsaber. The lightsaber will give Kanan +3 power, and that will be enough to take this game. Mike cannot exhaust Kanan, and Gray has forced a game 3 at SCG CON Atlanta. We are getting ready to go here for game 3 in this round 5 feature match of Jango Tarkintown versus Anakin Blue. Both of these players looking to remain undefeated. Mike, aka Bobby Sapphire, versus Gray. Great performance for both of these guys so far in this tournament. And if they can get to 5-0, it gives either one of them a great shot to lock a spot into the top 8. Now here in game 3, Mike starts with the initiative. And game 3 is underway. Mike starts with Kylo's TIE Silencer in the space arena. Gray playing Kuil in the ground arena. Now something interesting to note so far in this match, the player starting with the initiative at the beginning of the game has went on to win that game. Mike had the initiative in game 1 to start, and he won game 1, and then Gray started with the initiative in game 2 and took game 2. So we'll see if Mike can keep that trend going and hold serve here in the final game. Now here in round 2, Mike playing the P-38 Starfighter, 1 damage to Kuil, and Jango exhausts Kuil, and then Gray putting the Jedi lightsaber out early here in game 3. Jedi lightsaber onto Kuil, who is now a 5/6. 5 HP remaining with that 1 damage. The Jedi Lightsaber did protect Khalil from just dying to Tarkintown. And what is really interesting here is that Mike immediately claimed the initiative after Gray played the lightsaber on Khalil. He passed up on an opportunity to deal 3 damage with the TIE silencer. And that shows us that Mike is prioritizing exhausting Khalil with his first action. And with him claiming the initiative, he very likely has a way to do so. Khalil, of course, can hit for 5. He can restore 1, and he can also get card advantage. So Mike wants to exhaust him and deal with him as quickly as possible. Mike does have, once again, great control in the space arena. 2 3-power units over there, threatening quite a bit of damage here in this round. And now Mike just deciding what to resource here, as this is what I feel like a very important turn moving forward in this match. So here we go, both players ready. Round 3. Mike is going to start with triple dark raid. And believe it or not, it is the first time we have seen triple dark raid in this match. And now we'll see what Mike can find. Can he find a way to exhaust that Khalil by dealing damage? Ruthless Raider or P-38 Starfighter would be the units he would be looking for to do that. Ruthless Raider, obviously the best possible pull, and it looks like he has found Ruthless Raider. So Mike plays the Ruthless Raider. It costs 5 less. Mike did have the 1 ready resource to bring out the Raider. So 2 damage to Khalil, 2 damage to Gray's base. So once again, Khalil is exhausted by Jango's ability. And now Khalil only has 3 HP remaining, which means Tarkintown could take it out. A much better start here in Game 3 for Mike than we saw in Game 2, where he had to play much more defensively early, and he was facing a lot more healing capabilities on Gray's side of the table. And now Gray responding with a takedown. So takedown is going to defeat the P-38 Starfighter. Mike deals an extra damage to Khalil. And then Ruthless Raider, of course, coming in ready with the triple dark raid, attacking Gray's base for 4. Gray just claims the initiative. Kylo's TIE silencer getting in. That's 9 damage on Gray's base, and Mike will use Tarkintown to take out Khalil. And that ends up being a big momentum swinging turn for Mike. 9 damage dealt to Gray's base. He takes out Gray's 1 threat. Khalil with the lightsaber. Now Mike did have the Ruthless Raider bounced back to hand, as the unit that you play off of the triple dark raid does not stay in play. It does get returned to your hand at the end of the phase. But Mike does still have the Kylo's TIE silencer. And I think in my mind, there's no doubt Mike has to feel good about his current position. Gray with the initiative. Round 4. Starting it out with Restored Arc in the space arena. So Gray does present a way to contest this space arena a little bit. Mike getting in with the TIE silencer, another 3 damage. That's 12 damage on Gray's base. Gray just passes over to Mike, And Mike has a quick response to the restored arc. Imperial Interceptor coming out of the sideboard and defeating the restored arc 170. We saw Mike have a quick response to Gray's Razor Crest in game 1 that was really presenting a great way to contest with the Space Arena and heal damage from Gray's base at the same time. Mike had the answer with ISB Agent plus Tarkentown. And then here, a Space Unit for Gray pretty early in game 3. And Mike once again able to take it off the board that same turn. Now Village Protectors coming down into the ground arena for Gray. And Mike did deploy Jango Fett, attacked into the Village Protectors to remove the shield token. 2 damage back onto Jango. Gray did get to keep the initiative. And Mike playing the ISB agent. No reveal here, so no damage dealt to the Village Protectors. And to start this next round, Gray will play Make an Opening. That will give the Imperial Interceptor -2/-2, so the Interceptor defeated. And Gray does heal 2 damage from his base, back down to 10 damage on. Now the action over to Mike. He does still have to deal with the Village Protectors at some point. And with Mike's first action, he will attack into the Village Protectors with Jango Fett. Village Protectors defeated. Jango has 3 HP remaining. And Gray plays another copy of Restored Arc, and Gray down to just 1 card remaining in hand. Mike continuing to be aggressive with Kylo's TIE Silencer. Another 3 damage to Gray's base. Gray just passing here, back over to Mike. And Mike is going to play Ruthless Raider. 2 damage to Restored Arc, 2 damage to Gray's base. Ruthless Raider certainly something Mike has not been short of here in this match. And now the action back on Gray. Contemplating deploying Anakin, but then he realizes that ISB agent just sitting there ready, and with Jango in play, ISB agent could just attack and exhaust Anakin right away. So now Gray has a decision to make. Does he still deploy Anakin? Or does he just claim the initiative? Gray does just claim the initiative here. Mike is able to get another damage into Gray's base with ISB agent. And I think Mike would consider that a big win. The ISB agent keeping Gray from deploying Anakin there. Now Gray does start with the initiative, plays Luke Skywalker. Jango Fett -3/-3. Jango back to the leader zone. So Gray able to remove one of those threats. But now Gray has no ready resources. And Mike is going to play another copy of ISB agent, revealing breaking in his hand, dealing a damage and defeating Restored Arc. And now, once again, the Space Arena wide open for Mike. Gray is going to deploy Anakin. Anakin can no longer be exhausted here unless Mike plays a no good to me dead. Jango has been defeated this round, so he is exhausted. Anakin is pretty big here. He does have +3 power right now. ISB agent getting in for another damage. 17 damage on Gray's base. And Anakin does come across and hit one of those ISB agents. And that will be 4 overwhelm damage to Mike's base. The action back over to Mike. He's still showing quite a bit of damage in the space arena with no way for Gray to stop it here in this round. Ruthless Raider gets in for 4. Gray claims the initiative. Another 3 damage to Gray's base with Kylo's TIE Silencer, and Mike has Fett's Fire Spray. Fire Spray will be ready, and that's another 5 damage to Gray's base, just 1 HP remaining. Wow. What a turn for Mike. Gray with the initiative, 1 HP remaining. And I believe the only card that would prolong this game is Redemption. Now let's see, does Gray have Redemption here to keep this game going? Luke restores 3, but it wouldn't be enough, and Gray does have Redemption. So Redemption coming in. Gray healing the full 8 damage once again, back down to 21 damage. Deja vu all over again from game 1. So just 1 HP remaining on Redemption. And now the action back over to Mike. Mike is going to attack Luke with ISB Agent. Luke exhausted with Jango's ability. That is a big play because it will prevent Gray from healing 3. Anakin attacks Mike's base for 8. 12 damage on Mike's base. But now here comes the TIE Silencer, defeating Redemption, and Gray has no way to stop Fett's Fire Spray and Ruthless Raider. Mike, a.k.a. Bobby Sapphire, will take it in 3, and he will remain undefeated at the Saturday 2K here at SCG CON Atlanta.
All right, so we've got a little extra for you today. We've got a post-game interview with Mike Jim, or as some of you may know him as Bobby Sapphire from KTOD, and he was the winner of this match. Bobby, thank you so much for being here today for this interview, and thanks for collaborating with me.
Yeah, thanks. I was excited to be on camera during the SCG Con, and I've absolutely loved checking out your content, and the commentary for these games was great.
I really appreciate it. Hey, you and the rest of the KTOD guys, you put out some great content as well, and
Thanks.
The community is very appreciative of that. Now, I do want to ask you a little bit about this matchup in particular, some of the plays that you made, and Jango. Now, let's start with this matchup. Anakin Blue versus Jango Tarkentown. What are your thoughts on this matchup, and what are some keys to success for the Jango player?
So in general, I like this matchup. I think it's pretty good for Jango, but it can be precarious if what happens in game 2 happens, which is where I don't have any ground and they have all restore units on the ground, Queel into Yoda into Kanan. I can't really race that. So I'm either looking to be on the ground myself to start to control some of that restore and actually take some of the units off the board, or I want to be able to take units off the board with things like P-38 into a Tarkentown or a Geonosis Patrol Fighter to bounce a Yoda. Anything that can stop them from getting that restore online fully. But in general, from the Jango perspective, I'm looking to trade units early so that when Anakin comes out, he's not a ridiculous monster that I can't deal with.
Okay. No, that's great points for sure. Now, in the match, you made some very interesting plays, and I want to kind of point one out from each game.
Okay.
The first one in game 1, and now you mentioned this, I believe, in your introduction for the game 1 video, and you're doing a really cool giveaway for your viewers.
Yep.
And they could kind of guess why you made this play. But you had, there
I got
it
a
is.
Jango token for him.
That's awesome. So you had Jango in play and Greedo in the ground arena, going into the 6 resource turn, where of course Anakin would be deploying.
Right.
And Gray had the initiative. I believe he attacked into Jango first with Kawil to kind of get him in range of takedown.
Mm-hmm.
And he did. He played takedown after you attacked with Jango. So Jango's off the board. You had Greedo still ready in the ground arena, and Gray deploys Anakin. So now Anakin's ready, Greedo's ready, and it's your action. And you actually decided not to attack with Greedo. You played the Ruthless Raider instead. Now, and of course, with Jango being defeated earlier in the phase, you can't exhaust Anakin with Raider because he's exhausted right now. So kind of walk us through that play and, why you decided to not attack with Greedo there and go Raider instead.
Yeah, and as a few commenters have rightly identified, the key here was the action economy. I wanted to start next turn with initiative. And the only way for me to really do that is to get my Raider on the table now, allow Anakin to kill my Greedo, and he's most likely going to take the Greedo kill because he's nearing the end of his life total, and he can basically do the same amount of damage whether he kills Greedo or not. What he doesn't really factor in, or I don't know if he really factored it in, but he did what I wanted him to, which is overwhelm the Greedo, allowing me to put the 3 damage on there. So that puts Anakin at 5 damage total, meaning when I start the next turn with initiative, I can play that other Ruthless Raider in my hand and just kill Anakin. And of course, I got lucky and I hit the Greedo flip, which is always just nice for bonus. That gave me a little more freedom with my actions. That meant that I can attack first with my Ruthless Raider as opposed to having to open the turn with the 1 in my hand. But it was all about making sure that I start next turn with initiative, because if I attack with Greedo and then Anakin attacks in, to play my Ruthless Raider, I lose initiative.
Right. And that's a great point. And it's really cool because, you have to play with not just what's on the board, but you obviously have to think about what's in your hand and think about that next turn. And so that was a really cool play that you made for sure. Now, moving on to game 2, and something interesting to note, you won games 1 and 3.
Mhm.
Gray won game 2. So the player that started with the initiative actually won every game in the match.
Yeah.
Game 2, Gray has the initiative. He opens with Kuil. And you had Greedo in your hand because you actually see it in the video. You start to play the Greedo, like you tap the resource and then you start thinking about it for a second. You're like, oh, wait a second. You ready the resource back up and you decided not to play Greedo and just claim the initiative. So I'm just curious, what was your thought process on deciding to forego the turn 1 play and just claim the initiative?
Yeah, I was worried about essentially just giving away a card for free that was going to die anyway. And I thought that if I just could use the P38 to exhaust Queel, I'd be able to keep up with everything that Gray was going to be able to do. And I very quickly learned that that wasn't the case, and he completely overran me in the ground arena. So I regret not making that play, but I just thought it would be a better use of my cards. Being able to hold a 1-drop for Force Throw is something that I like to do in that matchup too. So I just thought that I could, get ahead on cards in hand by not playing Greedo. But in the end, I lost on the board.
Right. No, that's fair. And I think it's one of those things where you can correct me if I'm wrong, but obviously Gray's got the initiative. He plays Kuil. So he has the early advantage because that next turn, Kuil can attack, get him card advantage. And that could potentially just start to snowball, especially with more units. And I feel like sometimes when your opponent has the advantage, maybe that's because of initiative or it's a bad matchup, etc. Sometimes you kind of have to think outside of the box a little bit and maybe take a play that isn't the normal line of play just to try to give yourself an angle, like something you were just talking about, to give yourself an advantage to try and to win that game. But in that particular situation, it didn't work out. But I think there are times where you do have to kind of think outside the box a little bit for an abnormal line of play, try to give yourself an advantage where you normally wouldn't have one.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that's something I really like about Jango in general, is that it lets me sort of pivot to where I need to pivot. And the exhaust effect from Jango, along with all the pings in the deck, makes for some interesting lines. And I can really create problems for my opponent by not letting them execute their game plan. And ultimately, that's what I was trying to do, not let Gray execute his game plan with Queel.
Right. No, and I think that's a great point and a great play. Now, one more question about a specific play that you made in game 3, deciding game on your flip turn. So Jango's out. I believe Gray plays Village Protectors. You attacked into the Village Protectors to take the shield token off with Jango. And to end your turn, you just play ISB Agent. You didn't play, or you didn't reveal anything. So you weren't trying to, deal a damage, exhaust something, defeat a unit, nothing like that. You just put a 1/3 body in the ground arena. And it ended up being crucial in the next turn because it really threw Gray off on the flip turn when he wanted to deploy Anakin. So just kind of talk us through that play and why it was so important.
Yeah, a lot of the times I'll hold ISB Agent because that ping exhaust effect is so great. But I didn't have an event in my hand. And because going into the 6 resource turn, ideally I want to play a 6 drop, and I don't have room in my curve to hold up ISB Agent, even if I did draw an event. I really wanted to find some way to hold Anakin at bay. And to do that, oftentimes, you need to have the action economy to take more actions than your opponent. Because if they can get you off your actions, then I would have to attack with the ISB agent, or I wouldn't even have an ISB agent on table to take an action with. So I want to take as many actions as I can before he runs out of his action. So if he wants to flip Anakin, it's going to get tapped. And if he doesn't flip Anakin, he passes, I get to claim. So it was really about creating actions, but also just presenting something that Gray wouldn't want to take the time to kill, or really couldn't afford to take the time to kill, so that it also could pin. It's nice. That's another thing that I love about Jango, because a 1-drop 1/3 can pin a leader.
Yeah, no, that is so cool. I mean, the power of Jango there. I mean, you've got these tiny little units that can just completely throw off your opponent's game plan. I mean, it's similar with On the Doorstep, right? I mean, you get these little 1/1 droids, and it just completely shuts down what your opponent wants to do, because you could just exhaust it with the little chump minion. So I love it.
Yeah.
Very, very cool play for sure. And it panned out perfectly for you, because it completely threw off Anakin in that match. Absolutely. Now I want to talk a little bit about Jango Tarkintown, the deck specifically. What do you feel are the best and worst matchups for the deck, or what matchups are you really wanting to see in any given tournament right now, and what matchups are you kind of hoping to avoid?
Yeah, I think the best matchup that I'd like to see is Cad Bane, just because you have so many ways to pull Lurking TIE Phantom, and it really turns their deck into a non-deck. They basically don't have a leader if you have Lurking TIE Phantom, and they have to work really hard to get around having that card out. So I think that's one of the best Jango matchups we can ask for. I think one on the other end of the spectrum is either mono blue or blue green. Specifically blue green hero, but mono blue in either color can be real problematic. For blue green hero specifically, they have Conquer Dawn Protectors and Bright Hope, and when they can just chain the Sentinels, even adding that to the ground, you can't even pivot to the ground because of Village Protectors and things like Obi-Wan, or God forbid they have General Riken. So like that gets really stuffy. You can't really push any damage. And then for mono blue, it's the combination of the Conquer Dawn Protectors with the 4-cost Vigilance, which kills basically everything in my deck and heals 5. So it's really hard to get ahead of that restore.
Right. Okay. Well, no, I appreciate the information, because coming from someone like myself, I've played Jango a little bit, but you have been championing this deck for quite some time. You have had great success with this deck, and it's really cool to hear your insights, because a lot of times you talk to players, and one player may think, oh, this is a good matchup, and then somebody comes along and says, oh, it's not a great matchup. So it's good to get that insight from you on someone who's very familiar with the deck. Now, let's take that to the next level. So let's say there is a player, they're looking to bring Jango Tarkintown to a tournament coming up, local showdown, or one of these last PQs of the season. Could be a new player, could be a player that's played for a little bit, but they are looking to rock Jango Tarkintown. Are there some good general tips or advice that you could give that player?
Yeah, I think in general, like, don't be afraid to mulligan aggressively for a hand that, for lack of a better term, does something. It's nice to have an early curve, but sometimes it can be even more important to just have a P38 and a triple dark raid in hand. The deck has a really low floor, so if you're keeping hands or having to play out hands where you're just like playing a bunch of crafty smugglers and 7th Fleet defenders, you might end up losing a lot of games. So don't be afraid to lean into the gamble and try and high roll some of your hands and try and hit those Ruthless Raiders off the TDRs. And then the other thing that I would recommend to people is prioritize starting in the ground arena, like Crafty Smuggler, Greedo with ISB Agent. Both of those things, most of the decks in the format are trying to be on the ground arena, and if you play against Han, it's really important to be in the ground arena so you can take tech out immediately before they get to DJ. So there's a lot of matchups where just being on the ground to start is really good, and then trying to go wide in space afterwards.
Okay. No, those are some great points. And again, I appreciate all the great insight on the decks. Again, you've had great success. You ended up making the top 8 in the Atlanta event that we're showcasing here, SCG CON Atlanta. You ended up in the semifinals, and you have made the top 8 at several PQs since then, and a finalist as well in one of those events. So you've been doing a great job, and you're so close. And I believe that you're going to get that PQ win real soon.
Yeah, thanks, man. We'll try.
No, absolutely. So the last thing I want to talk to you about, KTOD, you and the rest of the crew, you guys are doing a fantastic job over there.
Thank you.
Providing great content for the community on your YouTube channel. And you guys are also bringing some amazing benefits and value with your Patreon as well. So if you could just tell my viewers a little bit about what you guys are doing over at KTOD.
Yeah, so as you said, we have a YouTube channel. We put two public videos out a week. It's usually some kind of like meta review or deck tech. We have a bi-weekly podcast. We have exclusive Jump to Lightspeed spoilers coming out Wednesday, the following Wednesday, the 19th. So we do all kinds of general content for the public. And then behind the Patreon, we have all kinds of deck analysis, write-ups, tournament reports, live streams. We do a lot of exclusive content. And then the biggest benefit, though, is our Discord, where we have 1,500 people. Everyone's competitive minded, but it's a very non-toxic situation. Everyone's in the deck channels helping each other grow, talking about plays, coming to people with problems, taking pictures of games, being like, hey, what do I do in this situation? What would you do? There's a lot of learning going on in there. And then there's also tons of voice channels and different tiers to get whatever you want out of this game. If you want to just kind of lurk and learn about what people are saying about decks, we have a lot of PQ winners in there. We have other content creators and large members of the community or important members of the community contributing all the time to the discussion, whether it be in the Green Sabine deck chat, the Jango deck chat, or just like in the off-topic deck chat, or talking about Twin Suns.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I personally have been subscribed to KTOD for quite some time, and I've been a member of the Patreon for a while as well, and it's been a great learning tool for sure. So definitely recommend it to everyone. And again, thank you guys for being pillars of the community and helping grow the community. It's been great.
Thanks for the kind words, and thanks for recording these games. The content that you're bringing to the table is unparalleled right now.
Well, I really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you so much to everyone for tuning in, and a big thank you again to Mike and KTOD for doing this collaboration. We do have a little bit more coverage from SCG CON Atlanta coming soon, so stay tuned for that. May the force be with you, and until next time, take care.